Tonight on The Roast, Julia Gillard announces new funding for schools, Justin Bieber makes a tit of himself at the Anne Frank Museum, and a Nepalese TV presenter breaks the world record for longest televised talk show. 62 hours and 12 minutes. That seems doable. Start the clock. Now our reporter Mark Humphries is acting as official adjudicator today. Mark, I'd say I've got this in the bag, yeah? On with the show. Well, those titles burn up some time. It's just 62 hours and 11 minutes to go. Now, first up tonight, Prime Minister Julia Gillard has announced plans to increase school funding by $14.5 billion over 6 years as part of the government's Gonski reforms, allowing the opposition to drop bombs like,
"This is a Konski, not a Gonski."
Terrific. Now, under the plan, public schools are set to receive $12 billion, independent schools $1 billion, and Catholic schools $1.5 billion, meaning they can finally afford to leave every student racked with guilt. The government plans to pay the school reforms by cutting $2 billion of funding from that other more lefty school, university. You see, when it comes to education funding, the government is willing to do whatever it takes, and that includes cutting education funding. Now, Ms Gillard will officially put the deal to state leaders at the upcoming COAG meeting on Friday, where she'll explain the funding via some complex arithmetic.
For every $1 they are prepared to put in to get there, I am prepared to put in $2.
So, if Campbell Newman gives Julia Gillard 1 apple and Julia Gillard gives Campbell Newman 2 apples, did Campbell Newman get a good deal for his state? Because all I get is boobies. Bottom line, the reforms aren't a done deal just yet. With the ABC reporting, Queensland and Western Australia have already voiced opposition to the proposal. Well, in the end, of course, the states will probably just accept the deal because premiers are like teachers and Julia Gillard is the principal. Once she corners them in the COAG staff room over a few Monte Carlos and a cup of Dilmah, they won't stand a chance. Well, joining us now for a student's perspective, we have Clark Richards on School Bus 446. Clark, what are the students saying?
So many things, Tom. So many offensive things. I tried talking to the kids up the back of the bus, but Jared Randall called me a dick flop and made me sit at the front with the nerdy kids.
Yeah, right. Did you get anything from them?
Some great World of Warcraft tips, but I also found out they're disappointed. The funding increase could see much smaller classes. Smaller classes means smaller groups for the smart kids to intellectually dominate. No one wants to gloat about being top in a class of 8, Tom. They think it will mean a depreciation in the value of gold stars.
OK, but for problem students, surely more specialised attention will be of benefit.
Yeah, you're right there, Tom. It's much easier to get away with bad behaviour in a big class. See? Enjoy it while it lasts, Jared. When this new funding kicks in, you'll have caring and attentive teachers all over you. You've drawn your last Tinkerballs.
So the front of the bus kids don't like it, the back of the bus kids don't like it, and both appear to not like you. Where would this money be better spent?
Keep it where it is, Tom. At least university students choose to be there.
Yeah, but children are the future, Clark.
Only because that's when they'll be useful. Do you know what a future child is, Tom? An adult. Oh, get out of it, Jared! That's it! I'm having you! Sorry, Tom, I've got to go. I've got to go punch this kid.
No, Clark, I've got another, 12 hours of questions for you. Well, to keep the ball rolling, I wonder what these future adults think of the funding reshift. Nick Richardson, our resident adult, joins us now from the University of Western Australia. Nick, as a part-time law student, how are these proposed cuts going to affect the university experience?
It's disgusting, Tom. The old smelly books will only get older and smellier, and the class sizes will get so big, I might never get to meet Dr. What's-his-name, who teaches Something 101. I'm paying $8,000 a year for these classes. I deserve a proper education.
Yeah, it doesn't look like you're in class.
Yes, I slept in.
OK, Nick, I've also heard the government is planning on turning the $1,200 startup scholarship that's paid to students at the beginning of each semester into a repayable loan.
Yeah, and I can't afford that, Tom. I'm already up for 40 grand for this degree. I'll be paying higher fees so school kids have a better chance of making it to a university they can't afford. You know what these better educated kids can look forward to? Baked beans and Devon. It's all I eat. There's nothing poorer than Devon, Tom. It's the hand-me-down of lunch meat.
So it's all bad news for university students?
Yeah, well, the one good part is they'll finally get something to protest about. I didn't get to spit on soldiers during the Vietnam War. I didn't get to make a great anti-Howard pun for the Iraq protest. I never got to storm out of a lecture hall and chant, "What do we want?" I know what I want. No more Devon.
And a decent job.
Yeah, I hope not. Then I'll have to repay all these loans.
Right, Nick Richardson there, using his education wisely. Well, turning to our second story, and Justin Bieber is facing a media backlash for something other than his music, after comments he left in the guest book of the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam were made public. Specifically, Bieber wrote, "Anne was a great girl. Hopefully, she would have been a believer." And sure, while there are those who might be outraged by this apparent insensitivity, I feel there aren't enough people outraged by his fundamentally flawed logic. You see, he's either suggesting that had she survived, Anne Frank would now be an 83-year-old believer, or he's suggesting she would have been a 15-year-old believer, meaning Justin Bieber would have had to invent time travel, go back to the 1940s, and then rebuild his career from scratch in a world without YouTube, Twitter, or Usher. Now, many people were impressed that Bieber had shown an interest in World War II history, though it is thought the visit may have simply been the result of his discovering there was a diary of a young girl that didn't contain a reference to him. And now, in a way, it does, because a quick Google search of Anne Frank brings up Justin Bieber. Mission accomplished. For more, we cross back now to Nick Richardson, who this semester wrote an essay on the importance of Dutch museums on Amsterdam's urban environment. Nick, what's the reaction been to this Justin Bieber guest book entry?
Tom, I don't know what all the fuss is about. It was just one famous child writing in the guest book of another famous child.
Yeah, but Nick, the guest book is a way for people to pay their respect and honour the sacrifice and hardships of this young woman during World War II. By saying Anne Frank would have been a believer, he arguably just used it for self-promotion.
Yeah, sure, he shamelessly plugged his own made-up word, but at least he's setting a good example to all these young Twitter followers. Books exist, you can read them, you can write in them. It's a valuable message. And at worst, he's trivialised a historical figure that represents the suffering of millions. But at best, he's introduced Anne Frank to a whole new generation. Justin Bieber is Anne Frank's Usher.
And, anything else?
Nope.
Okay, that was a good way of burning through a few minutes. Moving on. Finally tonight, a Nepalese TV presenter has set a new world record. For now, after hosting a live televised talk show for 62 hours and 12 minutes, or approximately 373 episodes of this show. The host of this marathon was former Nepalese journalist and current manager at a subway, Rabi Lamachan, who began the broadcast early Thursday morning and finished late Saturday night, during which time he ate on air and even began to grow a beard. Now, Rabi's show was called The Lord Buddha Was Born in Nepal, which the chairman of the network said was aimed to spread the message to the world that Buddha was born in Nepal. And to give us all the juicy details about Buddha in Nepal, we cross now to Jazz Twemlow, who's live from Kathmandu. Jazz, was the Lord Buddha born in Nepal?
Yes.
Yes. And they stretched that yes out for 62 hours and 12 minutes?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Jazz. So it's fair to say Rabi Lamachan knows how to fill time. Having answered the question that was already answered on Wikipedia, Lamachan seriously padded things out by interviewing 100 guests, ranging from a former Maoist rebel leader to the Indian ambassador to Nepal to Nepalese television celebrities and common people. And speaking of common people, let's cross now to Marty, the lighting guy.
Problem with the lights, Tom?
Lights are great, Marty.
Okay.
How do lights work?
Get on with it, Tom.
Okay. Well, how long's that been? Oh, 62 and a bit hours. Mark Humphries, as an official adjudicator, you must have an opinion on this.
Protocol dictates we shouldn't really get involved in the attempts.
No, of course not, no. But, I mean, travelling the world, seeing records broken, that's got to be great.
I've seen things, Tom. Things I can't unsee. I've seen fingernails so long they curl back inside of themselves. I've seen eyeballs that pop out of people's skulls. And just when I thought I couldn't take any more, I spent a few nervous hours with that cat man.
What was he doing?
Just being a cat man.
Okay, there must be some positives, though.
Well, I do have a few records of my own. Most observations of people wasting time, and longest time spent pitying people.
Oh, well, speaking of time, 62 hours and 2 minutes, this record's never going to work. I'm going to try the eyeball thing.
We have a new record! Good night!